So good morning. Today we are going to discuss a theorem called Lami's theorem. Lami's theorem is applicable in the cases of three concurrent forces in equilibrium. Suppose if there are three forces which are concurrent and they are in equilibrium, and then we have something called Lami's theorem. It says that if a body is in equilibrium under the action of three forces, each force is proportional to the sine of the angle between the other two forces. So you have a figure here whether there are three concurrent forces, P1, P2, and P3. Suppose it is acting at some point, say O. I'll just mark here. It's acting at some point O. And it is making angles alpha, beta, and gamma among them. Then we can write that P1 by sine alpha is equal to P2 by sine beta is equal to P3 by sine gamma. So this is Lami's theorem. This is useful in solving problems in mechanics where there are only three forces involved. There can be a simple proof for Lami's theorem. It's based on sine rules for triangles. Now you know that if there are three forces, three concurrent forces in equilibrium, then if you represent these forces as vectors, it should form a closed triangle. So if we try to represent these three forces as vectors, right? Let's have a try. Say I suppose I start draw a vertical line. I construct a vertical line, make it a chain line. Right. Let's start with the first force P1. Right. So select some point, say O, along this line. So suppose you have some point O here. So this point is O. All right. I try to draw this force P1. So draw a line P1. Which is parallel to the force, right? I draw a line parallel to this P1 parallel line. So this is P1. Now, so I represent this as P1. Let it be P1. Now it should make an angle beta with the vertical. E angle same. So this angle is beta. Suppose this point is A. So I represented the force P1 as a vector OA. Now you draw vector force P2. Right? So when you draw P2, I'll just extend the line of, mark the line of action of this this force P1. So this will, suppose this is the line of action of P1. I'll mark a chain line. Right. Now from A, I draw P1. So I draw P1 from A. So from here, I draw a line parallel to P. So definitely it should meet somewhere here. So this is force P2. So this is P2. This angle should definitely be gamma. Right? This gamma. I suppose this point is B. Right. So you represented the two forces P1 and P2 as vectors. Now, since these are in equilibrium, the third force, P3 should always be vertical, right? It should definitely be from B to O. So this, if you draw a vertical line here, then only these three forces can be in equilibrium, right? If you join this, this will be P3, right? And it should definitely make an angle of alpha with P2, അല്ലേ? P2 P3 തമ്മിലുള്ള ആംഗിൾ ആൽഫയാണ്. അപ്പോൾ ഈ P2യുടെ ലൈൻ കുറച്ച് ഇങ്ങനെ എക്സ്റ്റെൻഡ് ചെയ്താൽ, right, this angle should be alpha. ഇത് ആൽഫ ആയിരിക്കും. ഈ ഒരു കണ്ടീഷൻ എന്തായാലും സാറ്റിസ്ഫൈ ചെയ്യണം. ഇഫ് ദ ത്രീ ഫോഴ്സസ് ഹാസ് ടു ബി ഇൻ ഇക്വിലിബ്രിയം, this condition should be satisfied. Now, to prove Lami's theorem, we should rely on something called sign rules for triangles. Sign rule for triangle. I'll write here sign rule. Sign rule for triangles. എന്താ ഈ sign rules for triangles പറയുന്നത്? What is sign rules for triangle? If you consider any triangle, say if you consider this triangle OAB, so you have a triangle here now, OAB. Each side is proportional to the sine of the angle between the other two sides. Okay? So if we consider a side OA, E triangle OA ennulla side, it should be, this side is proportional to the sine of the angle between the other two sides. ഇപ്പോൾ P2 P3 തമ്മിലുണ്ടാക്കുന്ന ആംഗിളിന് പ്രൊപ്പോർഷണൽ ആയിരിക്കും ഈ എ ബി ഒ എ എന്നുള്ള സൈഡ്. ഇപ്പൊ ഈ ഒരു ആംഗിൾ കൺസിഡർ ചെയ്താൽ ഹൗ മച്ച് വിൽ ബി ദിസ് ആംഗിൾ? ദിസ് ആംഗിൾ ഷുഡ് ഡെഫിനറ്റ്ലി ബി 180 മൈനസ് ആൽഫ, അല്ലെ? ഇത് 180 മൈനസ് ആൽഫ ആയിരിക്കും. ഓക്കെ, സോ ദിസ് ആംഗിൾ ഇസ് 180 മൈനസ് ആൽഫ. ഞാൻ കുറച്ചും കൂടി അത് ഒന്ന് വലുതാക്കി എഴുതാം. So this angle here, ഈ ആംഗിൾ 180 മൈനസ് ആൽഫയാണ്. So the theorem says that side OA is proportional to the sine of the angle between other two. ഇപ്പോൾ നമുക്ക് ഇതിനെ ഒരു റേഷ്യോ ആയിട്ട് എഴുതാം. OA divided by sine 180 minus alpha. Similarly, the other side, say you consider the other side is AB. AB should be proportional to the sine of the angle between P1 and P3. അപ്പോൾ ഇവിടുത്തെ ഈ ഒരു ആംഗിൾ, so that angle definitely is 180 minus beta, അല്ലേ? അത് 180 minus beta ആയിരിക്കും. ഈ ആംഗിൾ എപ്പോഴും 180 minus beta ആണ്. So AB divided by sine sine 180 minus beta, right? And similarly, if you look at the third side is BO. So if I write here BO should be proportional to sine of this angle here, which should be between P1 and P2, which should be 180 minus gamma. So I write it as sine 180 minus gamma. So we have the three sides. ഇതിനെയാണ് നമ്മൾ സൈൻ റൂൾ ഓഫ് ട്രയാങ്കിൾസ് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. സോ ദിസ് ഇറ്റ് സെൽഫ് ഈസ് യുവർ ലാമീസ് തിയറം, അല്ലേ? ഇപ്പോൾ ഒ എ ഇറ്റ്സ് ആക്ച്വലി P1. Sine 180 minus alpha is sine alpha itself. So P1 by sine alpha. This is equal to AB is P2 by sine 180 minus beta is sine beta. and BO is P3. Sine 180 minus gamma is sine gamma. Right? So hence the proof for Lami's theorem. This is how you prove Lami's theorem. The idea is if three concurrent forces are in equilibrium, then it should form a closed triangle, and then to that closed triangle you apply sine rule. You can prove Lami's theorem. I told you this is useful in solving many problems in mechanics where there are only three concurrent forces involved. So we already discussed one problem where a sphere is attached to a wall with a length of a string. We already did it by resolving into x and y direction or write equations of equilibrium. In fact, we can solve it using Lami's theorem, right? So you have this problem here. We identified the forces. We have drawn the free body diagram, and we have marked all the forces. Now, if you're trying to solve it using Lami's theorem, so I'll just give a heading. Suppose you're going to solve it using Lami's theorem, then say Lami's theorem. Just represent these three forces again conveniently. So we start from some point here, which is the center of gravity G. Now there are again three forces, right? One force is RA, ഇങ്ങനെ force, right? പിന്നെ ഇങ്ങനെ ഒരു force, which is T. Right, from here you have a force like this, so which is T, and then one force vertically downward, so ingane മൂന്ന് forces ഉണ്ട്. Now I'll just represent all these forces. So this is RA, RA. And this is T, and this is our 100 Newton, the weight of the sphere. So this is T. The angle, this angle will be 105 degrees, 90 plus 50. This angle is 90 degrees, and this angle here, this is the angle in the 165 degree, 180 minus 50. Straight away, right? Apply Lami's theorem here. What does Lami's theorem says? Say RA by sine 165 should be equal to, right? Next force is T by sine 90 should be equal to 100 by sine 105. So this is Lami's theorem. Okay. So from this you can find all these values for TA and RA. You take the first two. Sine 90 is actually 1. So T is simple. T equal to 100 by sine 105, right? So you get the value for T. Okay, and again you take the second equation, which is RA. RA is equal to say RA is given by 100 by sine 105 into sine 165. Okay, so you get value for. But I'm not writing the answers here. Try to do it yourself. Okay, and find these values for T and R. Okay, thank you.